Hello and welcome to Homegrown, the Soccer Yanks home for domestic soccer. I am your host, Dan DeRocha, and with me, the mastermind behind Homegrown, the legend, the executive producer, Jason Sierra. How are you doing, Jay?
I'm good, Dan. How you doing?
I am pumped. MLS has taken the spotlight away from the other leagues because they haven't really played yet, and they've taken the opportunity to be the central point for U.S. soccer right now, and they're making a firm hold on everyone.
It's nice to have it back. I missed it for a while. I think I mentioned to you earlier or a little while ago that I haven't been to a live game in a few months, and I actually can't wait to go to the opening day of Red Bulls this week.
I think it's going to be I think they're going to be trying to set a nice precedent at Red Bull Arena this weekend. NYCFC took the stage last week with no Red Bull action, so they had their home opener, and they had an epic home opener for the franchise, for the club. There is definitely NYC soccer wars undergoing right now.
The story of the early season has been the expansion teams, their success, their impressive home openers. I mean, we have over 100,000 people in the first two home games for these teams. And NYCFC, despite everybody's belief that there was going to be issues, they really had a good show in their first game.
Absolutely. Actually, this is a nice segue. They one of their young players actually did an impressive. It had an impressive two matches. Young guy by the name of Shelton, and it's interesting. He happens to be a standout rookie that has been making an impact. But overall, are you seeing? Because this is something that you keep track of you watch a lot of college soccer, you report on college soccer, you have an input on, and you have almost a kind of a you have a you want to see how these guys transition. What are you seeing from the rookies in Major League Soccer? Are many of them even getting time?
You know what? Not really. You expect some of these guys to come off the bench and get minutes, but you're seeing a lot of journeymen. And, and when I mean by journeyman, I don't mean veterans who join another team. And I think specifically about NYCFC. I'm not talking about Ned Gravoboy or Chris Winger, who are good players on good teams. You consider role players, guys you need to be successful in the league. But you're seeing teams playing in these journeymen who been 5, 6 teams in their careers, never really found a foothold anywhere, starting matches, and then you see these young guys like Kyrie Shelton comes on in both matches and really makes a difference. Now I don't know if he can go the full nine, but it's kind of systemic around the league of these journeyers getting time when I would like to see more of these rookies at least fail early.
You want to see them fail before it matters. You don't want to throw them in at the end of the season when a win is necessary. I mean,
Exactly.
although points are points. Everybody wants to get those early points. Is it a lack of belief from the managers, or is it that the players are just not technically up to snuff yet?
I think it's two things. I think it's they're not having enough confidence in the managers, and I think that there's probably a question about some of these guys' fitness, if their ability to go the full 90, especially in an attacking midfield position where they have to kind of hold and play in a system where they have to kind of know their place. And that comes with repetition, but also comes with stamina. You kind of lose your sense when you're tired, like the 60 minutes. You kind of miss your assignments, miss your marks, and if it's not a natural thing, it's not an instinctual thing. Especially for a midfielder, you could be caught at a place. I can understand them not wanting to go the full 90 with some of these guys, but the league is, and I'll say this, it's watered down this season. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I feel like the league is worse early on this season than it was last season early on.
Is this? Well, I mean, I have two questions. I want to segue into the watered down thing, but I want to ask you first: shouldn't a 22-year-old or a 23-year-old be essentially at a peak physical condition? I mean, I'm not sure I can accept that a rookie that's 22, 23 years old, not a 17-year-old that's still physically developing, and basically a young man that is probably is at his physical peak, genetically, biologically, shouldn't he be able to run the full gamut at that point?
The one thing people forget is that the college soccer season is a grueling season. It's a lot of games over a 3 month span where they're playing Thursday and Saturday games. They're playing Friday and Sunday games. And I talk to college coaches, and they keep saying that the season's a marathon. I would actually say that the MLS season or most professional seasons are a marathon, and the college soccer season is like a 10K. where you have to go at a high pace in a short time. But these guys also haven't played in 4 months in a really high end environment, and while you do say a lot of these teams treat them like professionals, or treat them like they're getting paid for their job. A lot of high end programs do. What did they do when they don't have classes or are not in the environment from say December to maybe that's December to March or December to February time? There's a lot of guys who didn't perform well at the combine, and partially because they didn't have a professional attitude during the off season.
So interesting. I mean, that is something that I know we've talked in the past about addressing in the college season, perhaps taking an approach to mimic more of a professional league. But that's not what I want to talk about right now. I want to talk about your point before, watering down the league. Chivas folded, and then you had Orlando and New York City FC joining the league. So I guess there's a net one additional club. But Orlando, although they did pluck players from other clubs, they already had an established roster. I kind of I would have felt that off the bat there wouldn't have been much of a watering down effect. I thought, but from your statement before, I have a feeling you're going to tell me otherwise.
Well, I feel the same way. I feel like Orlando City is interesting because they have guys who are taking a step up, and I'm kind of okay with those guys taking a step up and struggling in a new league. I think that's expected. But you do have these teams, and it's not just the journeyman, I like to say, but it's also I think these guys who come from secondary European teams who might come for a little extra money into MLS. I kind of, we always kind of bash the retirement league stuff. We always bash these guys who are in their 32, 33 years old coming to MLS and kind of getting that last paycheck. But those aren't the guys that are problems right now. It seems like a lot of teams are kind of getting these DPs from, Scandinavia or Eastern Europe, or I you say Scandinavia because of specifically because of the Chicago Fire, who, if anybody watched them, has not been impressive at all. And I think I kind of want to stop. I kind of want to stop seeing that. I kind of want to see these young guys play. And I figured between, like you said, Chivas folded, but NYCFC and Orlando City came in, and we also don't take into account that there was 30 roster spots, and now there's 28 roster spots. They're in the new CBA. They did cut down 2 roster spots per team. I don't know if this lack of new talent or new players coming in is partially because of the USL season not starting, and kind of putting these kids on USL rosters first before they come to the MLS team, or if it's just guys, coaches don't trust their players. And I think at this point we've seen a couple of impressive rookies right now make impacts, and I think that these guys earn at least a shot.
Absolutely. In other interesting news this week, they've been talking about the expansion. The goal was 24 teams by 2020, I believe. But the news coming out of the MLS camp from reporters, trusted reporters, are saying that they've started opening talks about expanding beyond 24. And to name names, Grant Wall even said, 40 has been thrown out there, and MLS one, and MLS two is a potential outcome of 40. I don't know how I feel about even more than 24. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's something. I know FIFA is over. Not that FIFA is a end all be all of intelligent thinking, but they do recommend that. I think 24 is the max that they ever believe a league should have. I mean, what do you see? What do you think about this going? Let's just say in the short term. Let's say in the next 10 years they go to 28.
Okay. Well, there's just a couple of things here that I think, and I've always kind of said this: the United States and Canada is a very large territory to cover, and I think we can do fine having 2 conferences, kind of how USL has it. Maybe not as strict as we're not going to play each other at all, but we can kind of have the ability to kind of expand more than 24 teams. And with the salary cap, there's enough players to go around. I just wish, and I think this is my biggest deal, and this kind of goes into our last topic of watering down the league. that teams do a better job scouting, and the salary cap will increase more, which it didn't increase as much as everyone expected it to. And I don't think there's an issue if, for example, they go out and scout South America and get those guys who are on the fringe of these really high quality teams, like they'll like River Plant and New Boy and a couple other high profile Copa Libertadores teams that have guys who are young or guys who are 20, 29 on the fringes on the squad who can really be depth guys. I'm not completely against that. I'm not completely against 24 because I think they're quickly expanding to it, or even 28 teams. I think we're going to get the 28 teams by 2020, 2022.
I mean, doesn't isn't this starting to mirror a bit what happened to the first iteration of NASL? I understand that the structure of MLS, the financial structure of MLS, is vastly different than the original iteration of NASL. But it was the overexpansion that did them in. Can St. Louis, Austin, San Antonio, Minnesota, which is actually a prime candidate, can these markets sustain a club that's gonna? Can they put 15,000, 12 to 15,000 people in the stands every week in, week out, or every other week?
Well, I don't think it really. The current model of sports, it doesn't really matter if you put 15,000 people in the stands or you put 40,000 people in the stands. It all depends on the TV contracts. And the Kiwi contract is for 8 years. So I think they need to reevaluate how many teams they have going into the next contract. I think that's more of a hindrance than can they get 15,000 people in each stadium every game.
Right, because that revenue is locked in for the next 8 years, and it'll be shared. You want to divvy it up even more, or at least when you come to the bargaining table and you have established a bigger, stronger league, perhaps you could double down on your revenue stream there. Yeah, I did overlook the TV aspect, but does
And the
it?
TV aspect, just to kind of cut you in, the TV is a big deal if you do want a lot of teams because, and we'll cut into the pro rel stuff, because people love talking about that. But if you want pro rel, you need three teams in New York, and you need two teams in Chicago, and you need two teams in Boston, and three teams in LA, and so you're gonna need a lot of teams if you want. I mean, like a lot of teams, more than probably 40 or even 50 teams if you want pro rel.
Yeah, but unfortunately, okay, yeah, let's say I do want pro rel, right? I like the idea of pro rel. I want that, but you're not going to get 3 or 4 teams in New York. What you're going to get is you're going to get a team in Rochester, and you're going to get a team in Albany, and you're going to get a team in Lancaster, and you're gonna get you're they're not gonna. I don't see the American investor is not gonna, because it's not a club. It's not really a grassroots movement. It's not a neighborhood putting a team together and growing. It's it's a rich guy or rich guys or rich girls. Sorry about that. Getting together and saying I want to make an investment. I don't want to share a market with 3 or 4 of the clubs. That's why I never see that. I can't see that existing unless we unfortunately, unless it's more of a USL Pro thing where you do see more of a grassroots. You know, they have very little and they're going out to the community and they have a cheap ticket and they're trying to create nice entertainment for the local people, and then the local fans kind of stay with them and grow with them. That I Unless MLS goes to that, which I just don't see happening, I can never imagine 3 or 4 teams in New York City or New York metro area. Let's just say the metro area to not piss anybody off.
Right, right. And I think you're right. And I think the biggest hindrance is, does Bob Kraft want to share a team with a guy who, owns a chain of furniture outlets? Does he want to share a team with people who are not as financially, I don't even know, just to say wealthy, because I can't think of an adjective right now to put up him in like in that upper echelon of A plus American entrepreneurs and and industrious people. I'm sure he doesn't want to share it with those people. And
You're talking about old money and new money.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm sure he's happy to share with the Hines and share it with the Vanderbilts and everything else. I would question if he wants to share it with this not even .com money. Those multi-million-dollar people. I think he wants to share with billionaires, not with millionaires.
Right. It's an issue. It's an issue. I don't know. I I just get I get a little bothered by the I like I like MLS. I support MLS. I watch MLS, but I do get bothered by the USSF kind of giving them a pass to really bully the rest of the rest of the country into their system. I just I don't I'm it's a little upsetting, and the problem and I am torn. It's a difficult, it's not an easy thing to just be black and white and say, well, MLS is bad. Well, no, MLS is not bad, but there are aspects of it that are not good for the, I guess, for the exponential growth of of soccer in America. I think MLS is great for nice and easy, steady growth, but I think if we really want to see it take off, it needs to be different. And I don't think USSF supporting MLS the way it does, and now I think that really they're kind of in cahoots to get USL Pro to be the second division, aka the farm system for MLS, and push NASL down to the third tier. I just I'm not sure I like these games.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we're all just kind of sitting on the sidelines. We can speak our mind, but there's really, it's like there's really nothing us you can do other than, I mean, we have voices. They're not powerful, but they're voices, and a lot of people probably agree. And one thing about soccer is that the sport is followed by a lot of people who are, I guess, informed consumers for the most part, who really follow the sport because they have to be. And I'm sure there's a lot of issue for a lot of people. But I think there is hope for some things. Look, you mentioned Minnesota United. They are owned by not the most sophisticated soccer person. They're owned by Bill McGreer, who was the former CEO of United Healthcare, and they picked him and Minnesota United over the Wilfs, who's that old money. If no one knows about the Wilfs, they are a real estate moguls in New Jersey who own the Minnesota Vikings. They have, if anybody's in New Jersey, you might know some of the developments. One of the original, I guess the original, I forget, unfortunately forget his name, but he was one of the boys on Schindler's List, and he's one of the nice success stories in the history of America. But his sons run the Vikings, are not particularly popular people among Minnesota fan base, and even New Jersey. They went soccer people over Minnesota. So there is something to say that MLS does care about the product, and they do care about the league and the perception of the league to go with that selection.
Yes, actually, I read a great write up on I think it was Empire of Soccer by Jake Nutting, and he did a great job of kind of describing what happened, but in that market, especially the competing between NFL money and an actual a different soccer organization, purely a pure soccer organization. And the one thing that I found really interesting that he had mentioned is that NASL should not look at this as a loss because MLS Minnesota United is going to be is likely. I don't know how certain it is. I don't know if it's but it's pretty likely that they're going to be an expansion team in MLS, and that's a loss for NASL because it's one of the better run organizations. What the writer of that article Jake Nutting was saying is that they need to wave that flag and say, look, our league is developing these kind of clubs. So if you're a new, you want to make a new club and you want to come into the soccer lexicon, and you're deciding between USL Pro or NASL, take a look at Minnesota United. That was through our support. That was through our league that they made it to the top Division 1, and look at it as a success versus as a loss. So I thought it was an interesting take on the whole thing.
There is, and I read the article and I agree with it. And somebody said that there really is, I think it was Taylor Twellman. He said there really is a promotion relegation, whether you want to believe it or not, that if you're a well-run club in one of the leagues, you're going to get an opportunity to move up to MLS once you have the ability to show that you can get a downtown stadium and do all the stuff that MLS requires if you're not paying $100 million for the team rights. Um,
Shots fired.
Shots fired, but I mean, the Sacramento Soccer Republic is a great example of a team where they might not get it today, but they are primed and ready. They have their, as they call it, the turnkey initiative, which is was talked about by their mayor Kevin Johnson and brought up in the Brian Strauss article, where as soon as MLS is ready, they're going to go in. And I don't think that team in that area is going to stop following that team just because they're not MLS. I think the people there are bought into the fact that they are what they are right now, and they could be MLS, and they like their team. And I think people forget it's not your personal team that you're not going to get a lot of fans for, but it's that draw of having these visiting teams coming in, and having Kaká come in, and having David Villa come in, and seeing Lampard and Steven Gerrard. That's a draw. That's a draw to the casual fans, and that's how you get from 17,000 to 25,000 a game. And that's kind of what hurts the lower division teams on a daily basis, on a regular basis, because they don't have that draw of the other team. I'm sure once the Cosmos come in and they have Raul, they're going to promote Raul, and people are going to go see Raul, and they're going to see across the board increase of fan bases in every city because of him. So what is hurting these teams are not individual. It's not in my own backyard. My team's great, but your team stinks. I just don't want to come out to every game to watch your team, to watch the other team.
I mean that it makes perfect sense. It really does. Keeping on pace with the quote unquote lower divisions. You had a an interesting conversation this week. How about you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I talked to the New York Cosmos Hunter Gorskie. He's a defender. If he kind of plays all over the back line, so I don't want to give him a defined position, but he definitely plays fullback. And he's a young player. He started with the Cosmos his when the Cosmos initial season, and he's a local kid from New Jersey, where we're from, and he's playing in Stanford, so it's a nice place to go with where his preseason went. If you're not following the Cosmos, they had an interesting preseason going out to Hong Kong and having a great reception, and they went out to Sac Republic, where he spent a couple of years in the upper part of California, had a good reception, and just came back from El Salvador playing SUNY Foss, and I had the opportunity to talk to him about the preseason and his expectations for the upcoming season of NASL. Thanks for joining me, Hunter. I really appreciate having you on.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I want to get started with you explaining your experience going to Hong Kong.
First of all, it was a great opportunity. I hadn't been to Asia before, so I was excited to go kind of see, what the culture was all about, um, and play, a pretty exciting game over there, the 2015 Lunar New Year Cup. So, from that standpoint, it was great. It was also great to get the win and celebrate with the team and get the preseason going the right way. So that was great, and then also nice to see that we were received very well by the people there. They seemed to really enjoy having us there, and obviously enjoy seeing guys like Raul and Marcos and the team play.
To me, when I saw the videos and everything, I think the biggest thing that stand out is how much attention you got over there, and how much even attention I know you were over here, but how much we in the soccer media noticed that the Cosmos is a big deal over there. I think I talked to you when we had our first talk a while ago, but Cosmos is probably the best known American club, other than maybe the LA Galaxy, and you can even debate that. You're traveling now this off season. You've been to Northern California where you went to school. You've been to El Salvador. What kind of experience are you guys having on the road, just going to all these places in general?
Yeah, like I said, we've been received very well, and the fans have been very excited to watch us play and to see us and to come out, and it's been a pleasure. Obviously, as a player, you want that appreciation from the fans, and it's great to know that that the Cosmos name is still a very recognizable and global brand name. I think that it's good for the guys to be able to go ahead and get to see that firsthand when we go on these trips.
Tell me a little bit about the the way you guys train while you're doing these traveling. It's been what almost a month now of being to three locations, which are massive distance for you guys. How do you guys adjust to this not just time, but of traveling, but the new time zones?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's tough, but the coaches are very mindful of it. They were players themselves. They know, they know the different struggles with the time zones, and they just ask that we communicate with them, and we just we try and stay on the same page so that they could adjust training to what it needs to be. Whether it's pushing us harder on some days and maybe other days, letting our bodies recover a little bit. But I think everyone is very professional and mindful of that, and able to accommodate everybody.
I'm kind of curious. The NASL's growing. There are more clubs right now who has their own stadiums, their more their own fan experience. Just tell me a little bit about. Are you paying attention to what's going on in the NASL landscape, or are you just kind of in your own world with the Cosmos and what you guys are doing?
No, I mean, I think I'm definitely mindful that the league is growing, and that I really like the way that the NASL goes about its business and does certain things. I like kind of the rules that we have in place in comparison to other leagues. I think that the rules make sense. I think it's it remains to be a good league for young players, which right now I am a young player. I think it's a great league to be in right now. We see teams this preseason. We obviously pay attention to other teams and who they're signing, and teams are continuing to sign on really good talent, making their squad stronger. Obviously making their facilities better so that they could train the right way. And as last year showed, the league is also very competitive, which is something you want as a player as well. You want every game to mean something. So from that standpoint, as a competitor, I'm super happy that all the teams are getting better, and everyone's taking it very seriously. And I can't wait for the season to come around to see how it unfolds again.
Just for the audience to get a little background of you, I've talked to you before. You were born in New York. I think you grew up in New Jersey. You went to
Yeah.
school in Stanford. I look at all these different locations, and your preseasons are really just interesting how you guys went around. And I looked at the Sac Republic one for you personally. I know you were under reserves for San Jose. Did you
Yeah.
think maybe if the connection with Sac Republic might have came a year earlier, you would have been on that field for your other team, or would have been a different area than you're in right now?
No, no, no. I didn't think that at all. Um, yeah, I hadn't. I don't, to be honest, until you're saying this right now, I didn't really think of that at all. You know, uh, I'm not even sure San Jose's, their link with the Sac Republic team was that strong at the time that I was there. I think it was kind of after I left where they started sending players over more regularly. But no, I think that I don't know. It's a good question. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, I say this to you because it's navigating for young players, navigating through the system. It's there's a lot more options out there. There's so much more vast. And you've
Right.
been now with the Cosmos since the first season. You played. You had a lot of starts. You got a lot of appearances. You were in the first game against Hong Kong. If people were watching that game, you provide the first assist in that game.
Yeah.
So you're established. So let's talk a little bit about how you feel now going into your is this your officially your third season, or is this, or how do you see it in
Yeah.
NASL
Third
terms?
season.
So it's officially your
Third
third
season.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you guys go about prepping for this season? I know you do your own thing, but do you guys know at this point now what your opponents have? Do you guys do scouting for your opponents when have a couple of people who do scouting on the other end to kind of know what to expect?
Um. No, I mean we don't. At this point, I think you know we're still focusing a lot on us. We're not necessarily scouting any of the other opponents in the NASL. We're kind of just concentrating on we know where we want to be at. Just in terms of physical fitness, in terms of the style of play we want to play. We know where we want to be and we know where we are. So I think just kind of every day we're inching towards where we want to be. So I think that's where most of the focus of the coaching staff and obviously the players is. And then me personally, you were kind of asking me personally at the beginning there. I feel great. Like you said, like the first season out, I was able to start a lot, and then I suffered the injury, and then last year was kind of the comeback from the injury and everything like that. But this year, I was able to train very hard in the off season. I was able to go to a couple European countries and play with some good teams while I was abroad, and I feel like taking that into preseason and playing really well. So I'm personally very excited for this season to have a big impact and help the team win another championship.
You went to Spain, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Was it Malaga?
Yeah, I was in Poland, and then I was in Spain. I was in, yeah.
How was that experience? What kind of we hear players go, young American players go overseas and train. How was that experience for what's it like?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends on kind of the circumstances that you're going over there to train, and it also depends on the club that you're training with. But personally, I had a great experience. Both countries, especially the Malaga trip was fantastic. I went over there with one of my teammates, and they really made us feel welcome there, and you could tell it was important to them that we got a really good experience over there. The players are great, the facility was great. It's always nice to go over and kind of experience a new culture and have a different look on the game. And I think definitely for young players, it helps us. It helps them grow, helps us grow. So for my end, it was all spectacular.
I noticed the Cosmos has a lot of Spanish natives on their team from South America and Spain.
Yeah.
How is your Spanish right now?
My my Spanish is good. It should be better. I studied a lot in high school and college, but no, I'm able to communicate with them on a pretty on an average level. But most of them are trying to learn English at the same time, so we help each other out.
All right. You guys, obviously, the biggest news around the team is the addition to Raul, as and for soccer people in the area, is the addition of the academy, but Raul for nationally is the biggest thing.
Right.
You also had Marco Senna was a phenomenal professional in Spain. He plays more with you as a defender. He's a holding midfielder. He was a massive part of that first Spanish team to win Europe. When you're playing with somebody like Raul and like Marco, and even Adam Moffat just came from the MLS, and Carlos Mendez is a longtime MLS player. So what do you glean as a young professional when being around them?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously, their level of play is very high. They played at a very high level, and you're able to kind of see, how they go about certain things, how they go about preparation and training and after training and things off the field. You could obviously you learn a lot from that perspective. And then during play you just most of the time you're just watching, but other times you're asking them questions and you're kind of evaluating what they do and try and maybe sometimes incorporate that into your game if it calls for it.
What do you what do you gain more out of? Do you gain more out of somebody who is a longtime veteran who plays alongside you as a defender, or do you kind of get more out of doing something like playing against facing Raul in practices in these drills as an attacker? Do you like pick up little tricks?
um it's a good question. I think each one you gain something different, really. Obviously when you're defending against them, you have to be smart. You know that they're thinking a couple steps ahead, so you got to be thinking a couple steps ahead too. And when you're playing with them, they're expecting you to be on the same on the same wavelength as them and up to speed. And I love that demand, and I like to demand that of the other out of everyone on my team as well. So from that point of view, it's whether you're playing against them or playing with them, there's always something to be gained.
This is kind of an interesting year for soccer in the Augusta, New York area. Of course, you have more attention with Raul coming, and but I was kind of wondering, have you noticed just from the people around you that people are more interested in just professional soccer in general, not the Cosmos, but also NYCFC and the Red Bulls? Do you think that kind of everybody in the area making news kind of floats all boats for professionals in the area?
No, definitely. So I think that the education is getting there, and a lot more people are paying attention to soccer and starting to develop an appreciation for it. And I also just think that the sport is growing in popularity by itself. Nationally. There's a lot of kids nowadays playing soccer, and when parents who maybe didn't play the game have kids that are playing the game, then they're obviously going to get into it. I think that the game is growing, and as a result, it's also growing in New York as well, and in the immediate area.
All right, thank you so much, Hunter, for talking a little bit about your really interesting preseason with the Cosmos, and good luck for the coming season.
No problem. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
To wrap up the show, we have our customary quickfire questions. 3 questions. kind of a yes no answers with a small truncated explanation. No soliloquies, no rants. First question, Jay, you're going to answer first. Here we go.
Hold on,
Oh,
we need to name the questions. I'll just throw it out there. The Loons for the
the loons.
yes, for the Minnesota United.
I like it. The loons. All right, the three loons. Okay, here we go. Question number 1. Abby Wambach, Amy, sorry. Abby Wambach is skipping the NWSL season for the Women's World Cup. Are you pro or against this?
I am actually against this, and there's just two reasons I'm against this. She's giving up on the season essentially because one, she doesn't feel she's healthy enough or ready enough to play in the season, and she feels like she has to be prepared for the turf in the area. But I think it's a real loss, not just for her, but for also the league. And to say that she doesn't care enough about the league and this team, her team, to play, it's just not worth it. Obviously, I mean, yes, the World Cup is significant, and the World Cup is the most significant tournament for everybody. But I think a lot of people out there, a lot of our teammates out there, really care equally about their chance at winning a championship because they don't have a shot at going to the World Cup. So I'm completely against it. I would not want to see a man do this. Say, for example, like if it was, just throw a name out there, Clint Dempsey, in 4 years want to do that.
I I am 100% against this. I'm going to say that if this is not a man woman issue, but let's just say on the men's side of the game, if a man said that he was taking a season off because he wanted to be ready for the World Cup, he's probably not ready for the World Cup. He shouldn't be on that team. S-
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. Unless it's like a substantial injury where they have to recover from it. Yeah, you have to if you're fit enough, you have to play.
You have to play, and I think really the real thing that I'm really against, Abby Wambach is really just demonstrating the same respect that the U.S. women's national team shows for the league. They've scheduled friendlies on the last round of matches of the league. They have the team itself and the organization shows no respect. They look at it as a stepping stool for them or an appendage of them. So they're like, it's not we're more important than the league. But essentially, the league is the thing that's going to happen every year that's going to sustain women's soccer in America. I, I can't stand for the disrespect the league is getting, and Abby Wambach is just really essentially a figurehead of the U.S. women's national team that is really propagating that kind of belief system.
Yeah, I mean it's a new league. They've tried 3 4 times in the last decade or so to get this league going. And if these women and these players aren't taking it seriously, I don't know if the fans are going to take it seriously either.
Agreed. Question number 2. The CONCACAF Champions League is it diminished by not having a super club winning it, i.e. Club America?
You can go with that one first. Go ahead.
Honestly, honestly, does it really matter? Outside of
I
Mexico, does
I
it
say
really matter?
yes. Yeah, I would say yes.
I,
We're gonna over. This is good. We're gonna go against each other in this one. Let's go.
I just think I know it's been set as a bar for Major League Soccer to win, CONCACAF Champions League, but from taking a step back outside of our U.S. bubble, outside of even our North American bubble, on a global scale, does anybody really care who wins the CCL? And I'm gonna go and say that not many people outside of our bubble really care. Whereas if you look at who wins the Libertadores or the UEFA Champions League, I think there's a lot more interest from outside those regions. I mean I think who wins Africa and I think who wins Asia also nobody really cares. To be honest, to be frank, it's just I'm being frank. I don't think it diminishes the CONCACAF Champions League because I don't think anyone's paying attention.
Well, it's chicken or egg, right? I mean, MLS is getting a lot more attention in Europe because Europe is showing MLS games. If these big clubs and these big teams who are appearing on these European TV as MLS teams, and I'm not, obviously, Mexico needs to do a better job promoting their teams in Europe as well. if they play well and they're start getting a following overseas, which is, could take 5, 10, 20 years, then they'll start getting recognition. You know, people will want to see the Galaxy. People will want to see, if it ever happens, NES team like the Cosmos to go to the finals. People want to watch that. But I think what diminishes more is the fact that it's 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 Montreal, who last year had an awful season. I can't judge them this year because they haven't really put forth the effort in MLS. They only played one game, and they were probably saving themselves because obviously to them the CCL is valuable.
Yep.
But if you're not the best team in at least a really good team in this hemisphere, in this region, who can contend for at least a title, it's kind of diminishes it. We can talk about Porto and we can talk about Chelsea winning it over the last 10 years, but if your bottom feeders of last year are not are winning the league, that destroys the credibility of the league and was what the value is of the title.
I can agree with that because it's almost like no one is anyone even is anyone even in the continent paying attention, because why are the big clubs not winning? Why are they not I think part of it is the timing of the CONCACAF Champions League. I think is awful. I think the way that they space it out. I think the way that who goes in. The leagues are all over the map. It just that I think plays a big part into there's an off season, and clubs change during that off season, and they're in the Champions League, and they've made it out of the groups, and now they're in the knockouts. It's a very strange setup. Again though, I see your point. I see your point. If LA or Seattle or a New York club, any of the three, were to win the CONCACAF Champions League, there would be a lot. Your eyes perk up, your ears perk up. That's a lot. That's way more interesting than Montreal, who has really just been bums. For two. At least last season with big time bums, but not you're not expecting them to make it to where they are.
Right. You know what? I tell you right now, if NYCFC would be in the finals, I think you would have a lot more interest overseas. But again, we think about interest overseas as England and Great Britain. We don't, I mean, I don't speak Italian and Scandinavian or German, so I don't know really what their opinion would be. But um, you know, I think if that team goes in, there would be a substantial amount of interest in, and I think actually, and I'll probably say this, I probably hate to say this because I think they're probably in terms of fans' eyes the Seattle of the East Coast. Uh, they would probably be the best team to have in the semifinals to get that international attention, even if they're a super club or not. But I still think they need a super club. I think it hurts not having a super club in the final and playing for the championship.
Point taken. Moving on. Last question. Last question that we have today. Here we go. If you were Gideon Zelalem, who would you choose to play for, the United States or Germany?
Well, this is I see for me, this is a question of what is his representative saying? Um, do they want to think long term and think maybe down the road in 5, 10 years he can be part of the German national team? Or do they want to think that, okay, let's get that next big contract and get him on a national stage and just let him go to the United States? And I don't care about the development part. Once you're out of the youth system, the youth residency system, when you're 17, it doesn't matter. The youth development, the national development of the league, of the players doesn't really take hold anymore. So it's just what does he want? Does he believe in his ability to be part of a German national team in 5 to 10 years? Well, 10 years, but 5 years.
So what is it? So then what so you're him, and what are you thinking? What are you doing?
You're the Arsenal guy. How's he look? Do you think he could play for Germany in 5 years?
Well, he hasn't played much for the first team. He's only had two appearances for the first team, and both in 2014. Um, I have not. I've watched him a few times. I've watched him in preseason. I've watched a few of the youth matches. He looks good. He looks good. If I were him, and I knowing my personality, right, and I can only interject my personality into him. I don't know how he is, but I would choose Germany, and it's not because. And it's not. I think some people would be like, "Oh, you pick Germany because they're more likely that you're going to win a World Cup with them." No, I actually picked them because the hype machine will not go to. It's not that I think that, let's say, if I was this kind of player at that caliber, not that I think the hype would go to my head, but I think the pressure of that hype would. I don't know if I'd be able to handle that. And I think he's already on the U.S. side. He's like this. Everyone's kind of got this like, ooh, ZLM. He's gonna be our midfield maestro. Our he's gonna be our golden god to unlock our 4-3-3. And you know, for Germany, they're like, yeah, okay, he's a nice player. And in 5-6 years, if he develops correctly and he makes the right, he plays well, he gets an opportunity, he takes that opportunity, he might be playing for Germany. I think not having that pressure is more likely to let him get to that high level than for him being considered a U.S. guy, and then your agent, there's all that hype. Then your agent gets in your ear about, oh, you need to get a new contract, and Arsenal's not going to give you a new contract. So where are you going to go somewhere else? Well, none of the big teams in Europe want you because you're really not that big because you've only played for the youth team. So now you're going to go to MLS, and you're going to get a big contract in MLS, and you got this big pressure. It's a Freddie Adu all over again. Like that. I mean, or maybe it's not Freddie Adu all over again, but that's the nightmare that I see developing. And I'd rather see the kid just be a successful footballer for whoever he plays for, and that's
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, I have to agree with you. I think we as journalists, we as fans, are so desperate to see a great player who came out of the United States that we do kind of ruin these kids. And Julian Green, when he came for to play with Byron. I mean, Pep Guardiola was not particularly happy about the way he was given all this attention and without having officially earned it.
Right. And now he's playing for the youth team of Hamburg.
Yeah, he's a German Brett Shea.
It's just it's that's what I don't want to see happen to ZLM. I want him to I want him to develop and become an awesome player for Arsenal. That'd be awesome. And if he does pick the US, I just hope it's tempered. I hope it's just not this hype machine and the guy never has a chance to really show what he could do. I mean, I would love him
Yeah,
to play for the U.S. I want him to choose. All signs point to yes. That he's going to be a U.S. player, um, and I just hope that it's not going to happen. I can hope all I want. The media is going to do the same. They're going to do it. It's just going to happen. He's going to be hyped up.
yep. Okay, so let's just say agree. Both wanted to go to Germany. Just because, listen, if he
If you
don't
were
take
him,
off,
that's not. It's not me being anti-U.S. It's just if I was Gideon Zelalem.
well, no, I think him going to Germany and him developing is a win for U.S. soccer. It's a win for U.S. soccer in the sense that he developed in Maryland. He
That's
was a kid who came out of Maryland. He wasn't a kid who came out of Germany or wasn't a kid who came out of England or whatever. So it's like the Rossi. He came out of New Jersey. So it is a win for us, and it's a proof that we can develop players, and we need to just and it's a check for us in the media to not overhype these kids.
agreed. Agreed. We agree quite often. We take funny roads to get there, but we agree. On that note, that is it for this show. Thank you everyone for listening. Please visit socceryanks.com. There's lots of great content. We've got a great bevy of writers that have been churning out some great stuff lately. Jay, where can people find your writing besides socceryanks.com?
Well, I'm doing something every week on njcollegesoccer.com. I know it's a college soccer site, but I'm figuring out a ways to get involved in both the MLS season and in the tri-state New York metro area soccer scene. So I do put out a rookie tracker once a week, and I'm going to throw that the monthly version of that on Soccer Yanks.
I'm. It's actually you're going to give me that this week, right?
Is it this week or is it next week?
I don't know. Well, We'll see soon.
All right,
10 days.
10 days. All right, all right. Yeah, I need a third week for I need every team to play at least 2 games before I can give you some kind of perspective on what I'm seeing in the rookies.
All right, I'll grant you the extension. Uh, on that note, folks, thank you very much for listening. Hope to catch you next time.